Hello students. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. Thank you for such uh, overwhelming registration numbers, which really tells us a lot about the topic and who's going to be talking today. Okay, and welcome to this webinar on behavioral sciences, behavioral experimental economics by the Meghnad Desai Academy of Economics. And our speaker today is a very close friend of the academy and a mentor to our students, and we really look at her as a friend, philosopher, and guide. Sagneet Kaur, welcome to the webinar. She is the Associate Director of Behavioral Research at Morningstar, and we are going to talk some more about this later. So, I just want to start off by saying I think I need to set the context. So behavioral sciences, specifically behavioral and experimental economics, is a huge focus area for the Meghnad Desai Academy of Economics, and that's with good reason. If we go back a bit in history, then one of the greatest mathematicians that humankind has known was a gentleman by the name René Descartes. And for those of you who are mathematically inclined, he's the one who invented coordinate geometry. Yes, I think coordinate geometry was an invention, and it was the next big thing in geometry after Euclidean geometry. And after all of that, René Descartes chose to study the human mind. And when he was asked why, he's supposed to have said that is because the number of people who understand the human mind is insignificant compared to the number of people who think they understand geometry. So this whole behavioral research thing, in my opinion, got kicked off back then, but it took three and a half centuries for the rest of us to really understand what kind of a revolution behavioral research could make in all of the careers or all of the work that we deliver. And today, it's such a great thing to see that behavioral research has come into its own. And I'm so happy that we have Sagneet to talk to you guys and us about it. Quite a few of our students have worked under Sagneet. They have been mentored by her. And, to let you on to a secret, in my position as the director of academic programs, I get a bit intimidated because parents and students tend to come to me to seek advice about aage kya karna chahiye. They are all worried about what is going to be the next big thing and all that. And I have a very simple way of doing it. I go to LinkedIn, which is such a great friend, and I take them to profiles of people and I say, you want to enter the vortex of the path that these people are charting. And those names have to be something that people relate to. If I say Barack Obama, then people, then young students are not really going to get their bearings. But I these days go to LinkedIn profiles of chief economic advisors or economists that I know, such as Dr. Niranjan Rajadhiksha, Dr. Ajit Ranade, and I often go to Sagneet's LinkedIn profile. And Sagneet, if you get the feeling that I am stalking you on LinkedIn, every time you see my name pop up, it's either a parent or a parent and student sitting with me, and I say, please study what this young lady has been up to.
Wow.
That is how much importance we give to what work Sagneet does, what her organization does. And last week I attended a webinar, Silicon Valley webinar, an expert advising students on what kind of careers to pursue. And I'll tell you, all careers are now multidisciplinary. No matter what product is being brought to market, one of the profiles working on that is always a behavioral research, because all those products are made for human beings. That is how much stock I lay in behavioral research. And that's why, listen carefully to what Sagneet says. And I hope we are going to have a lot of questions at the end of it. Somebody complained
Sure.
about the audio. I hope we are okay now. So without any more delay, that's the problem with me. I keep on talking. I am handing all of you over to Sagneet, and I am going to be listening to her with as much alertness as I'm sure you guys are going to be listening to. Sagneet, over to you.
Thank you so very much, Amlesh. And I would say, I would not feel that you have been stalking me, but rather, I would say that's a compliment to me and whatever I have achieved till date, because somebody looking at my profile and referring that to other students and then to gain some sort of like insight and knowledge, I think that's seriously a compliment to me. So thank you so very much. And Thank you so very much, everybody, for being here, for joining this session and listening to both of us. One quick thing, which before I start with whatever I have to speak, I'm a little like I'm not able to open my video. I really want to open my video so that people could see me.
I made you the co-host, so that should be possible now.
Let me try. Yeah, perfect. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Sagneet Kaur, and as Amlesh gave kind of a detailed kind of a background about me, and now he has told that there's a LinkedIn profile, and you can go and learn more about what I've done. But what I'll do is I do have a presentation to show, but again, I will try my level best to make the presentation. It's kind of just I've jotted a couple of points for all of you so that I'm not losing the track. I'll try my level best to make the entire thing very, very interesting and engaging for you. Starting with who I am, what I have done in a very brief manner, and then what we are working in Morningstar. So let me quickly share my screen with you. Yes. So there's a little change you might see in the presentation. Instead of behavioral science and experimental behavioral finance and experimental economics, I have made it a little generic to behavioral science, and I'll tell you why I've done. I have great links to covering up that, because I think fields are flourishing, and behavioral finance is also one of a small domain, I really feel, in the baby of behavioral science as a field. And I would really think that let's take a look at what is all there in behavioral science and how we can connect that to behavioral finance and other fields, which I think would benefit you guys. So this is the agenda. As I mentioned, I'll be talking a little bit about myself, what we do in Morningstar, how I achieved my position in Morningstar, plus what you all can do within the space, or when it comes to behavioral science or behavioral finance or behavioral experimental economics. What all skills we need to acquire, not more of gyan, but rather I would like try to take this through a couple of experiences which I have had, and which all organizations you need to go and look out for, because always there has been a lot of like limited scope and dissonance around, okay, where should I reach? Okay, I have done this, I have this skill, I have that, but like where should I land into? So I think I will be able to like give some good amount of insight into like where you all can land into. And I really think you would appreciate at the end of the presentation that yes, this is what we needed, because there is one trick, one thing which I have at the end for you, which you would, I think that would make a lot of sense for you. So before getting into like what I have been doing in Morningstar, I was a person, and just before landing into like my introduction, just make sure and think that whatever I will be saying in this presentation, it's all that whatever I've seen and has come across to my eyes and I've experienced in my life. Okay. So I was a person who actually didn't want to be in the profession of psychology at all. And I remember that day when I was just crying and begging my sister and my parents that I do not want to take up this subject in my 11th standard, that is 10 plus 1 and 10 plus 2. And I wanted to be in the field of commerce, like basically completely economics and commerce. And now you see that I started my entire thing in psychology, and I landed into whatever I wanted badly that time. So a complete no-no, and my sister filled it. I was just crying. She only went and submitted the entire the form and everything, and she was the one who took me for admission and all that. she pushed me, but lately, like I realized that slowly and steadily when I started studying psychology, behavioral science as a subject, it was very practical. It was very interesting. It was very much like bringing you to the reality, I would say. So I started having like gaining interest in that, and then started my graduation with honors in psychology, then my post-graduation in psychology. Then I thought of doing a PhD in psychology, and my research career actually started in like through my first publication in 2008. If I vaguely remember, 2007, 2008. From there, I started like working on the research pieces and started understanding the research fundamentals and how you publish a paper, how you do it, how you do different sorts of research, etc. And that was more of an academic bent. And then I taught in a university for near about 4 years, then moved to Bangalore, started my corporate life, worked with a lot of consulting, as a consultant. I worked with a lot of organizations, majorly startups in the area of like research related to any sort of research. I'll be talking about different phases of research. So I've worked around all different phases of research. And then worked with an edtech company, headed their research and R&D department majorly, and started a research consulting wing like from scratch. So this is Morningstar is my kind of a third company where I've been like putting people into and starting teams from scratch. And then then in Bangalore only, I worked with a financial services company where I was leading the R&D, plus I was the lead architect for their behavioral product. We worked in the space of designing products like on the financial personality, couple personality, personality of the people who do default in the lending space. We also worked majorly designing a CSR full-fledged program for the around financial literacy. And then in 2018, December 2018, I landed in Morningstar. I was hired as associate director, behavioral research for India wing. So Steve Wendell at that point in time was heading the team. He wanted to expand the Chicago team to India, but with a very niche and different sort of the profile and the team he wanted to set up, and he hired me to do so. Thank you so very much. I'm just recalling those days when I came to Mumbai for the first time, looking here and there and saying, no, this is not my kind of a city. I don't want to be here. And so it's basically, I would say it's destiny. I was supposed to come here. It was destined to come here. I still slowly and steadily started liking the city as well. Joined Morningstar, worked here, worked on many different pieces, and the major area of the India team when we joined, it's still there, but like majorly we were hired for, and whatever we are doing is around developing behavioral products. So developing methodologies which could turn into products, kind of a standalone products, as well as the products which could be a part of the existing services by Morningstar. And these products help investors and advisors to take informed decisions around investing. So whether it's an advisor who serve our clients, which is our end user is investors, and as Morningstar mission is to empower investor success. And we have many offerings around advisors, like for advisors to help investors and take good decisions for investors. So this whole wing was working towards that mission. And in general, and it's not like we are the only people sitting here. So we started a team of near about 11 people. We launched a couple of projects, and then we moved like one set of team to another team for expansion. I'm right now working on a couple of things which I will be sharing with you all soon. But apart from this area, we majorly have 3 to 4 basic things which we like, 3 to 4 areas which we contribute to in the organization, and a good amount of team sits there in Chicago and various parts of the world. So what we do is we we do original research, and the main reason for that is the thought leadership and developing insights which are not there in the market, which are not, you cannot find on Google, but relatively very new sort of areas we would pick. We would study the gray areas, the pain points of investors. We study them, we bring insights to investors and advisors and take that forward. We also determine and design communication strategies in a way like how a particular set of information will be well digested and well consumed by my consumer, which is my investor and advisor. Plus, whatever we research, we try to do product optimization. As I mentioned, the wing which I am leading is designing behavioral methodologies and putting them and designing methodologies which could be a kind of a standalone tools or which could be a part of the existing offerings, and how we can use the theories, insights, and learnings from this field in improving the experience of my end user or whatever research we publish. Because ultimately, like we started as Morningstar started as an investment data and research company. So and we are known for that as well. The products, the offerings, they came later into the existence, but we started as a data and research company, and we are known for that. So it's very important that we do it without biases. We do it with quality, and whatever we are delivering, it has a behavioral bent as well. So we are one of the teams across worlds who have like a full-fledged end-to-end kind of a team, which is having all different sorts of like skill set, and they are dedicatedly working in developing methodologies and turning behavioral science into an applied format as well. Now, this is whole what we do, and in the next couple of slides I will do a deep dive into like how we do that, and this will also give you a glimpse of what all you can achieve in this area of behavioral science, or when we talk about behavioral finance per se, or when we talk about behavioral science per se. So I think research, when we talk about research or product development or any business, I think there are a couple of phases, and whether it's a product development and generally, sorry, let's take it in another way. Businesses, whether and majorly the profit organizations, they work on their business is sustained when they will earn profits, or when they have any certain particular offering in the market. It could be a product, it could be service, it could be anything. So for developing that service and for developing that product, or for developing that particular thing which tomorrow people would pay for, is being developed through different steps. We'll be talking about those steps, but every step is having a research around it. So any product, any service starts with the problems which the end user might be facing or have been facing. So all that research is covered under, I would say, the light bulbs and everything else. So there's a hell lot of knowledge out there, but we as researchers need to pinpoint, and we need to get the right questions into our framework, and that entails a lot of your secondary research, and then a lot of primary research also comes into the picture. Then you develop methodologies around it, and I'll give you an example also. You develop methodologies around it, and those methodology would require a good amount of research at hand. And then when you develop something, then a prototype is there, you go to market, you do, while at the stage of designing, you do a lot of user testing, you do once the prototype is ready, you do a lot of like test market research, which is like testing and seeing whether whatever I grabbed at the need analysis research, like what was the need of my client or my end user, whether my tool or whether my service, whether my offering is satisfying that need, or is helpful in satisfying that need or no. So in Morningstar, what we do, we start with everything. Like we do all these steps of research. Like we start with the gray areas. We look at like maybe literature, secondary review, etc., and etc. And we read a lot. We research a lot. We do secondary research a lot. And from there, we pick the areas which we want to research or we think are important for my end user. And in the area of behavioral finance, it's always like, because everybody right now, when we talk about investing, is focused on getting the outcome, getting the profits. Gee, I invested in this investment, I should be getting the profit. Okay, so that's the main focus. But while making different sort of decisions, because ultimately they are human beings, they might be making mistakes, they might not be knowing what is required at the end of the day, what are different small points you need to be like tackling and thinking about, how you can improve your experience, how you can improve your output, how you can improve your returns. So all these things we try, we connect, we study. And then there's an entire wing, which is called as Investor Success Project Team. Now the team's name has been changed, but we do fundamental research, primary research. We design experiments, we run surveys, we run different sorts of research designs, and we try study the area, the gray points, the pain points of researchers. There's a hell lot of literature which you can like go to Investor Success Project Morningstar and read more about what sort of research we have done. And then from that research, when we publish that research, reading that research, plus the research done by every single department of Morningstar, plus the existing research which is out there in the market, we gain, okay, this is the problem. For an example, from your alumni, we hired Servery, and her main project was behavioral biases. So we developed a complete tool of mapping behavioral biases. So it's basically under production, couple of like, in every company has a couple of approvals and all that. So that actually landed from this whole pace of, okay, there's a lot of literature out there in the behavioral biases. We did primary research around it. And now we wanted to map behavioral biases and wanted to connect that with what are the investment related implications, or whatever the implication of these biases on the investment decision making. So, and from there, from that methodological research, when the tool was developed, when the prototype was developed, it went to user research, it went to your test market research, and now it's a little paused internally, but it has gone till the stage crossing all these different pieces of research, which we covered in developing one main product from the behavioral insights team. And likewise, we did signal data set, crowd sense. So we don't have much time around it, but I would love to share a couple of pieces maybe after this call, which you can go and read and learn like how we have channelized like a simple problem and created a tool around it into this whole space. And why I'm showing you this whole diagram is to help you understand that there is a scope out there. There are so many things which you can do, but there are a couple of things which you need to acquire, and I'll be talking about those skills which you need to acquire. So let's not spend more time on this. This basically diagram, this chart is talking about your need analysis research and your end test market research, which is a part of the consumer research, behavioral consumer research space, where you try to understand, okay, what my end user is looking for, and you develop the tool or methodology or services around it. And at the end, you see, okay, what my, if whatever I have developed is able to give that back, is able to fulfill the need of the end user or no. So these are a couple of areas which you can try your hand in, is like, and a lot of firms, they are hiring people very actively in the area of developing tools, in the area of user research or consumer research, in the area of marketing research. So user research, marketing research, I think they are majorly a part of the consumer behavior research. These all will have I would say all these different sorts of um, professions would require a basic set of skills, which I think everybody in this call can acquire. And given my experience with MDAE and given my experience hiring two main folks and mentoring people, I think they do a really good job. So what skills you need? So I'll tell you my experience when I have been hiring for a position in Morningstar and before that as well. What I need, I think there are two fundamental problems in India and across the world as well. I think that's something which, like, I will not say okay that's perfect outside and it's not there in India, but like being an Indian, I have experienced that. One is we have supply of good talent, but the scope which is being told to us is very, very limited. Because when I was studying, I really realized that like when I was studying and then when I experienced all my corporate life, I joined different companies, worked with so many different variety of profiles, and where I am today is I realized in this entire journey that if some amount of knowledge around what is out there for me was given nicely to me, like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years earlier to when I started my corporate life, I would have been on a very different scale right now. But still, I'm really happy whatever I'm doing here with Morningstar. But I really feel that when we were studying, the only focus and the only attention, the only scope was the one which was told to us by our teachers were clinical psychology. You can become a school counselor, you can sit in the hospital and do clinical psychology, you can work in drug addiction centers, you can become a teacher or a professor. And at one point in time, my ultimate goal of my life was to become an assistant professor. That was my ultimate goal. And I never wanted to be like, that was like, if I would have achieved that, and I did, that was the kind of an aha moment for me. That's something like kind of having param gyan and like reaching to the final stage of your life kind of a thing. But when I started my corporate life, I really realized that how much this is like interesting, what all you can do, where all you can make impact, and what all new things you could learn from all this. And I think hiring for a corporate world, vis-a-vis like teaching students and like whatever you do with the students, whatever research you do, or whatever maybe research fellows you hire for, that's like there's a hell lot of difference out there. So when we used to, like when I started hiring for different companies, these are a couple of things which I see as main things. One is and I think whatever I'm listing here, I don't want anybody in my team who has like, definitely it's good, it's plus if they have like good amount of and I'm talking about amount here, or the level here. So if it is like at the advanced level, definitely it's good, but I want the base to be set. The fundamentals should be clear. So fundamentals of research and research designs. Technical skills are really must, which I think we were not even told that you need to have technical skills. We used to have some manual sessions and some practical sessions around like SPSS and Statistica. That was the only world which was told to us. But slowly and steadily throughout my career, I experienced, I acknowledged the importance of what technical skills mean to us and to the business, and how they make your life so easy, your work so easy and meaningful, and what not you can do with that. Another is data analysis. Data analysis is one big chunk, because now in the world of big data, which is the common terminology which we have been using from last couple of years, we have been really playing with huge amount of data. It's not like, okay, we are sitting in a university, we are we are running a research, we are having like 100 entries or 200 entries. No, we are working with lots and lots on lots of data. And when you acquire that data from somewhere to do that research, that requires a lot of your understanding of how to handle that data, how to clean that data, how to play with that data, how to grab insights, build models from that data, what all things you need to cover in, like maybe there are say 100 fields for a data of say 7 lakh rows at it has, and it has 100 fields as columns. So what you would be doing with that humongous amount of data, and how you would be cleaning it, channelizing it, wrangling it. So all that data analysis bit is very, very important. Around that, when it comes to research, technical skills, and data analysis, I think these all are connected to each other. Without data, there is no research. And without data analysis, there is no research, and there is no end state where you are like retrieving insights. After data analysis, only you are able to retrieve the insights. And the fourth one is communication skills, because this is something which I've experienced, and this is something which I've heard from so many different behavioral scientists, that when you are in this field, you have to be very simple. You know the terminologies, you know the jargons, you know everything, but when you are talking to somebody else, explaining somebody else, then you have to be very, very simple, very, very assertive, very, very, I would say, you should have that flair of or understanding of how you will tell the story to anybody. That is a skill which we acquire over a period of time. And I think this is something which, whether you're sitting in an interview, whether you're presenting on stage, whether you're talking to your colleague, or whether you're like talking to your senior for any different project, whether you're listing requirements of your client, this skill is going to help you everywhere. So I would request, start doing that. And the last one here is proactiveness. And along with that, I haven't written it, is curiosity. To not lose your curiosity to learn new things. And proactiveness is very, very important in terms of like asking curious questions. Proactively taking responsibility of the things, foreseeing things. So you're working in a particular project, so you have to know the nook and corner of everything, what is going to happen in the past. Maybe if I take this step right now, maybe if we are designing a particular methodology, these things are entailed in that, but what are the implications of all the steps which I'm going to perform, or when I implement this methodology or a particular research. So that level of curiosity and that level of proactiveness towards looking at the right problems and making a plan for solving those right problems is something which is required. Now coming to a very interesting part. I don't know how many minutes I have, but this is the most interesting part, and I would want to spend some time on this because there are some exciting pieces which you would be like looking at. So there's a website, and I will be sharing all these links, so there is no need to like take an account of it. So Dr. Steve Wendell, who was my mentor, now he has left Morningstar recently he moved out of Morningstar to another organization, but he hired me, and he's been a great person, a great mentor, a great human being. He along with two other organizations, they did a survey throughout the world, mapping different organizations who work in the space of behavioral science. So I don't know whether I can ask any question, Amlesh, or no, but I want to ask the audience who is there to help me with maybe a rough number across world and across India. Like, what is a rough number of organization you know in the area of behavioral science, who work in the area of behavioral science?
Yeah, maybe some of our students can say whether they know any organization which works in behavioral science, even if you name one.
I'm looking at the chat box.
Abhishek, Vijay Gopal, and
Not
Abhishek is,
aware of a lot of them. Okay, how many?
and
I want number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 15. What? Or any really? Okay. Okay. Uh, okay. That's I could see no responses. I've come across only one so far, which you think is Morningstar or somebody else? Only one.
well,
Okay.
if somebody were to ask me what percent of organizations in the world should be in behavioral research, I would say all of them.
Yeah, I would say I completely agree with you, all of them, and I can like take a full day session around like how that could be possible, but we don't have that much time. But I'll give you some real numbers now, as per the research done by Steve. If you see this chart, and this is a countrywide chart, and in this research, they found near about 600 companies, different companies working in the space of behavioral science. So that's a huge number. As per, if you see 1, 2, 3 and compare this number, it's huge number. And if you see somewhere, you're sitting in India right now, if you see, where is India? India, 22 different companies you could find in India, in different parts of India, which hire people from the area of behavioral science. And United States is like the topmost in a blue color, 242, and South Africa 9, Singapore 9. So the second highest is 82, United Kingdom, then Netherlands, then Australia, then India, then Canada. So then the number goes like small. This is the number. This is the actual number. I'm talking about an actual research, and we have that's a like the other part I will talk a little later. I will not reveal the surprise for many of us here. I don't know, many, it could be a surprise for many and it could not be. And these are the number of like new behavioral science teams by start, like whatever they researched, they found that their inception years are these different companies, these 600 companies. They most of them started around say 2012, 14, 16 and 20. And relatively, these are working around these major areas. So their main area of, I would say, of among all these companies, what they majorly focus on. So blue is a very important one. So directly changing behavior outside the organization, then sharing research internally, developing products, developing marketing, changing employee behavior, publishing externally, and developing policies. And this is, and you could see the least is developing policies. I'm not pinpointing anything, but developing policies is the area where like a lot of scope is there. But yes, there's an irony also, which I'll be talking about in the next thing. These are a couple of pieces, these are a couple of areas and activities which are important for all these units, all these 600 units. And I would just remind yourself that I'm talking about the 600 companies who are working in the space of behavioral science, and not any other, like maybe so it's not like they are full-fledged different companies, standalone companies. So they are part of a bigger hub. So for an example, if I talk about Morningstar and like behavioral insights team in Morningstar, so Morningstar is a very big company. In India only we have near about 3,500 people. So you could see the size. We have we have our existence in 28 countries, starting from US and UK. So these are the big hubs. Shenzhen is a very big hub of employees. India is basically the second largest hub of employees for Morningstar. But we are a group of 10 to 15 people within Morningstar. So there are certain standalone companies. There are certain companies which are like small ones, like kind of a startup in a big company, like behavioral insights team in the big company like Morningstar. So these are a couple of links. I will take you to another important aspect, and I would want to show you those links because one by one, there are a couple of pieces which I want to show you. So this is the site which you guys can refer to. This is www.behavioralteams.com. You will get to access to the report which I'm referring to that will help you understand what this research was, how they did, what was the sample size, how they acquired the data, what all insights they got. So everything you will get from this particular link. And just a minute. Yeah. And basis this report, so this is the report which you will be able to download and read more about it. And there are a couple of people who have actually used this research and like they built upon and tried to use the data and grab more insights around it. So a couple of insights, I didn't put all of them in the slides, wanted to show you actual websites which you can go and keep your eyes on. So in terms of insights and keeping eye on, I think these are a couple of groups which you can like tap, which you can follow, which you can keep a track on, like ESPA, that is EPSA, that is Applied Behavioral Science Association, or Design Action Group, or Profile of Steve Wendell, or BASPA, that is Behavioral Science Policy Association, and many more out there. So these are the organizations which do such kind of a research, which track all these companies, create a pool of it, and provide the data to you to like to expand your horizons in terms of getting opportunities in this space. So if you see, this research says that 63% of the groups sized 1 to 5 people, 20% 6 to 10 people, and rest of them have larger groups. Locations are majorly UK, US, Australia, India. Behavioral science mission is 59% of the groups report applying behavioral science as their main mission, which is a very, very big thing. So these companies have been focusing and having some struggles and some successes as well. So if you read this para, that is non-profit, like this one. So basically, the judicial and legal change teams report the highest level of success, followed by health, HR, and increasing usage. Education and finance report the lowest level of success. Taking a distinct perspective, the success rate was compared to if the change recipient knew about the intervention. Surprisingly, there has been significant differences in the success areas. They have been facing problems around a lot of struggles around idea implementation, measuring impact, getting approval, finding partners, access outcome. The least one is designing ideas. So why I'm showing you this chart, it's not sharing what they have done, but rather bringing your attention to see, okay, these are the problems out there. These are the companies, they are facing these many problems. How can I upskill myself and land and connect nicely with a company who is facing this problem, and I can be a lead to solve that. So these are the problems which are upfront, are there in front of you, which you can solve by maybe reading more, by upskilling yourself, by getting knowledge into that particular space. So these are the problems. These are behavioral science companies, but still they are facing these problems. And you are like one of those like resources who can go and sort these problems in those 600 companies, I would say. And this is something which I've already shared, the importance of activities, the techniques which they have been using. So they have been taking certain names. So you can like go to this website. I will not be like focusing on this. In terms of methods, so they have been using these all different sorts of methods. Now, this chart is another important chart when you talk about skills, when you talk about, okay, kya learn kare? When we talk about research, when we talk about, okay, having fundamentals of research, because I'll tell you one nice story. So when we were hiring for all these positions back in 2018, 2019, and recently also when we hired Ankita, so the way we run the interviews, it's very structured form of an interview, and there's a technical round. And our technical round talks about many different fields and asks technical questions. And I have been into those experiences and those interviews where like I am getting profiles, very beautifully written profiles, and you after reading the profile you say, okay, I got my candidate. And when you sit in an interview with them and you go through the technical round, they do not know the basics of, okay, how to conduct an experiment, how to develop intervention, what is an intervention, what is an RCT, how to, if I ask, okay, how you can measure the impact of an intervention, they do not know all those statistical ways or all those techniques to run that. So this chart helps in giving you a grasp of, okay, these are the areas you need to master, you need to learn at least the basics of it. And then some different sorts of measurements. Majorly all of these 600 organizations, majorly all of these are using like A/B testing, pre-post measurements, reviews or feedback, and the least one is machine learning. But nowadays, like machine learning is taking huge heights. These are just numbers. It's not sure. It's not saying that the one which is at the lower level will be used less. Rather, I would say the one which is at the lower level is in the blooming stage, and in coming years it will excel and will maybe overpower various other methods. So yeah, this is what I have. And the last piece I think which would excite everybody, which I wanted to show everybody was, let me, sorry, I didn't share my screen. I'll share my screen. And the last piece is, so I'm talking about 600 companies, and here is the action design, the BASPA, Steve Wendell and action design team who have developed this behavioral teams. They have actually created a directory of all these units, behavioral science units. So you could find 1 to 50 page, and the number is 550, which is readily available to everybody. There is huge amount of knowledge. They have prepared it nicely, so you can filter it, put some filters, go there and see the names of the organization type, the location, and the link. So maybe I would say private company is any and India. Oh, no data. Interesting. For-profit company. Yeah. 16. So these are the resources which I could share with you. These will help you understand what is the status of, I've given you like, I think in a couple of minutes, I've tried my level best to give you a good glimpse of what you should have, where you should look, and how you should look. I think these are the 3-4 things which are required for grabbing an opportunity in the space. And because many times it happens that we do not know anything and we think that's the world. So that's not the world. There is great, big, huge world out there for you, and the kind of skills you are acquiring here in whatever you have acquired before and whatever you would be acquiring in MDAE, I would say. So a great skill set, and many more things which you, I think the way I've listed a couple of skills which you should be focusing on. If you have that, I think there is no way the companies won't hire you. And again, last one thing, have a nice LinkedIn profile so that people could refer your profile to other people and tell that this is what you should and your daughter or your son should do. Thank you so very much for your time, and sorry for taking a little extra time than what it was like allocated to me, but it was wonderful sharing my knowledge with all of you. Whatever I have, little amount of knowledge, there are like so many people out there, and people like, I would say one is sitting, one you could see on your screen is Mr. Amlesh. So huge amount of knowledge they have, and I think it's great to connect with MDAE. I have like superb experience with MDAE, and And it's great to be a part of this session. Thank you so much, Amlesh, for this opportunity. And thank you so much, everyone, for being here and listening to my chit-chit.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
we have a few questions if you have the time.
Yes, definitely. I think I
Yeah.
could see some. There was one question in the Q&A section
Yeah,
as
so
well.
that's from our student Manali Vaidya, and it's a very obvious question, I think. So basically, it comes down to in behavioral sciences, how much math, how much stats, and we get two kinds of questions really on this. There are some students who love math, they're strong in maths and stats, and they ask to what extent I can leverage it in behavioral research. And there are some who say that math stats is quantitative is not really my cup of tea. Can I still play a role in behavioral research or behavioral sciences?
Okay, great. So I think before answering any question, see, I would say that uh, I'm not, I'm not an expert. I see myself as not an expert because there is so much I'm also learning. So maybe my answers are based upon my experiences or whatever I have achieved till date. It's not like the perfect answer. So do not expect that I'm going to give any perfect solutions to anything, but rather I can give some direction, some perceptions which you can like take away from here and can benefit from that. So I'll tell my experience with like what amount of maths and what amount of stats. So for me, uh, the combination of math and the combination of behavioral science is in a very initial stages. Rather the stats, and when you have used maths, stats, and Amlesh used quantitative, and I would add the qualitative aspect. So I think, to my knowledge, there are two aspects of any sort of research which are applied in behavioral science as well. One is quantitative aspect, one is qualitative aspect. So in the quantitative aspect, it's majorly primary research. You collect a lot of data, you play with it, or you do a lot of like you play with existing data which is out there in the market, or you acquire it, or you get that internally from different sources. You get that data and you work with it and develop models around it. There you need your quantitative skills, and for primary research you need your quantitative skills and knowledge about different techniques, statistical methods, and your parametric, non-parametric statistical techniques. The merger of exact mathematics with behavioral science is very little, and more or less it's been channelized through machine learning techniques these days, which is, as I mentioned, I was showing that chart that is kind of a blooming. And there is like in Morningstar, we have a behavioral marketing team set up in Chicago who is working in this whole space, masters in different models of machine learning, and they have been getting internal data, and they have been using their machine learning skills. They are creating mathematical models, machine learning skills, and out of the data which we like have around different offerings. So whatever people do on the website using our profiles, we have a data. So we use anonymous data and build models on that. So that is the merger which many companies are doing. So you're all and many user research companies, many consumer research companies out there in the market, they have been doing that. What you find in Uber, in Google, so all these companies are doing this only. So they grab the social media feed, they have their data, they are making personas of people, they are understanding human behavior, they are seeking most of the companies in the space of consumer research and market research are trying to understand how behavior of the people, what sort of a persona would pick what sort of a product. So all these companies are working in this space. So it's not, for me, I would say it's not like okay, you can live with either of them. I really think the basics should be clear. Maybe you are master in qualitative research, but you should know what are the basics. So basics, if I say basics, so basic techniques of a parametric research, like running a regression model, doing an RCT, mapping the running an ANOVA. So these are some basic techniques which you can master. Maybe it's not required to run a kind of a high level, higher order factor analysis, etc. and etc. I'm not expecting that from anybody when I'm hiring. I want the basics should be clear. And in terms of qualitative research, you can, again, I really feel there is, as I mentioned, there is no binary 1 and 0. So in research, in one research, you can apply either quantitative or qualitative, and you will say, okay, I will go for those research projects which has the qualitative part. No, it's always the mix of everything. And when I was showing that Venn diagram to you, so a good amount of your need analysis research requires your qualitative skills, whereas good amount of mathematical and statistical techniques and research thing requires when you're talking about the methodology, when you're designing the scoring, when you're talking about designing a product, or maybe in the test market research. I hope I'm able to answer the question. I'm not able to hear you, Amlesh, you're on mute.
That really helps, not only the students, because, we as an academy look to professionals like you to shape our curriculum. So, for example, when I hear you speaking, the various words that I hear, in statistics, ANOVA, hypothesis testing really goes in well. Then we also in data analysis focus a lot on elementary scoring systems, because finally, it's very important for students to know that scoring is nothing but ratio proportion across variables. Then RCT, classical linear regression models, logistic regression, all this just fits into econometrics.
Yeah, that's very important. That's
which
very,
we have it actually, and that's the reason we have made econometrics as a compulsory course across economics and data science. Because I really think that's the first step, that's the first set of baby steps towards machine learning finally. And we put a lot of stress on combinatorics as part of the mathematics, because that just comes up anywhere, absolutely anywhere, So yeah, that was good. Now,
and there's a lot of overlap between the, like, when I progressed from my initial years till now, like from the world of only stats to the machine learning. So we develop models on machine learning. So what I see is there's a lot of overlap. Pehle, we used to just take a data and run a regression model. Now we understand in machine learning, it's same regression, but you train and test the model separately. You divide the data set and do that. So these are some things which give you a kind of, oh wow, this was something which I knew already. Why should I be like looking at? So I think we need to find those places. I think, and I was able to grab because the basics, the fundamentals were very clear. So it was not a big challenge for me to grab new things throughout when I was like learning in my career. I think I really appreciate those days when my teachers taught me nicely and I was able to grab things nicely.
And it really helps if you look at statistics as a toolkit for machine learning, to understand the statistics behind machine learning.
It's
even linear regression, as you go further and become more of an expert, then the nuances step in, that you've been doing linear regression all along, but when do you want to switch to try and use lasso regression or ridge regression?
Yes,
so, yeah,
yes, absolutely.
But what we tell our students is, this is a journey. Don't expect you'll cram all this learning into 1 year. You have to live it your entire career.
No, it's always that's why in the beginning of answering these questions I said I'm also learning, so I'm not an expert. Nobody's an expert. Sorry to say, nobody's an expert.
Yeah.
This is what I've like learned.
Yeah. See, one of the practical questions students ask, everybody is aspirational these days, happily so. I am really delighted to see the level of aspiration amongst young students. And a lot of them aspire to go, let's say, to the US, study further. And of course, then the practical issue of having a 3-year OPT comes into the picture, right? And everybody knows that a STEM degree gets you a 3-year OPT. So I am sure that behavioral science masters are also now classifying in STEM, because you mentioned Sarvari Das, who is from MDAE. She worked with you for a couple of years, and now she's at Duke, and she's doing a master's in interdisciplinary data science.
Yeah.
So I think students just need the assurance that if I study behavioral sciences, I can go and opt a STEM degree at a good US university.
See, I think it totally depends. Whatever I've experienced and learned, and when I was helping Servery as well, like writing her recommendation letters. So again, I have all my education from India only, but whatever I've learned and seen people doing is, I really don't think behavioral science stops anything. Rather, I think it facilitates. And as I mentioned, the way the behavioral science across the world and in the countries like UK and US, because if you see that whole pie chart which I've shown you, the 242, near about 242 companies out there in US and good amount in UK and good amount in India. I think these companies, and like mine, even I talk about Morningstar also, all of them, they want data science, they want other skills to be a part of it. And if you talk about companies like Google, Uber, big chunks like Facebook, so all of them have their research, behavioral research units inside, and all of them want a mix of skills for you. So it's all, I really feel that grabbing an admission in foreign universities is all about what you have in hand in terms of knowledge, whatever you're doing, whether you're doing maybe a history or an economics or maybe whatever, any single, maybe just you're doing a graduation in English honors. What I think they ask for is whatever you know should know in totality kind of a thing. Maybe you should know in a good grasp of a thing. And their interviews are important. The way you portray whatever you have done in this, because recommendation letters, they scrutiny very much. So they look into, okay, what sort of education you have, what you have learned from that education path or career path which you have chosen, and what is the reason of that shift. So for example, you're shifting from an English honors to a data science. What is the reason? How you're linking that? I think you should have that skill and a purpose. If that purpose is clear, I don't think they would not want you to grab that degree. I don't think that's the case. With Servery, it was quite easy because she's been working with us, and the kind of work she has been doing, she's been merging a lot of things around behavioral science, data science. The bias model which she developed was a mix of like good amount of fundamental research around and secondary research, plus developing a full-fledged model around mapping biases. So that was an exciting piece in itself, and I think whoever would have read the recommendation letter of hers would have been excited. So I think there was no way she wouldn't have been selected by a great university, and she did that. So I'm really proud of her.
I get a lot of questions in the academy. We get a lot of questions from students who are contemplating doing a PhD. So what we tell them is, please refrain from doing a PhD because you think that's a qualification you should have. So what we advise them is that there have to be ways whereby you can get a taste for research and then decide whether a PhD is your cup of tea. So other than places like Morningstar and Monk Prayogshala, who, Professor Anirudh Tagat, he teaches there, he teaches at MDAE, and we have students doing research under him. What are the avenues for students to get a taste, pre-doctoral taste of research in behavioral sciences in India?
Okay, that's a tricky question, because with respect to PhD, I'm a PhD, so I have I have very positive thoughts about grabbing a PhD and how you can use your PhDs in a corporate life and how much it is valued. Also, it's a degree. It is valued, very much valued. So I think I don't know any such, like, I would say, okay, this is the go-to place for having a kind of a preview of what PhD would look like. I don't know whether anything is available there out there in the world also. I don't know. But I think I can tell about myself is, so what's happening is, I think the master courses, many master courses, and I know MD also has one which is like where you put the people to dissertations and all that. So I really feel that flair comes in the master level. So if you are attentive in your 2 years, and if you're working with, maybe if your university is not asking for, or course is not asking for any sort of dissertation, I would go and recommend to choose a particular like your favorite teacher who is interested. Do maximum amount of work you could do. Try to grab maybe like 1 hour 2 hour a week of that particular teacher or professor you are interested working with. And there are many, like, teachers are always, like, my experience has always been positive. They love students coming to themselves and teaching them, and like clearing the doubts and helping them throughout. I think masters, I'm not talking about bachelor research, any sort of research, masters is a very good space where you can get into, land into your deep, and do a deep dive into the basics, plus do a good amount of research. And when we were studying, we didn't have any dissertation at master's level, but now I think most of the courses and almost all the universities have that aspect of doing that dissertation part. I think that is very, very helpful to understand the research space, but I don't think any like anything close to the PhD. I really don't think that's there. What PhD has provided me is, yes, I was in touch with research from a very early stage when I was doing my graduation, like first years of graduation, and then I started into like doing honors and very close to research. Masters also, in masters also there were a couple of publications and conferences I used to attend. But PhD actually taught me and gave me a very, very deep dive into the technique, like deep dive into the very specifics of what research entails, and how you can and I have been working in the like applied sector only always. My research thesis was, my PhD thesis was around developing an intervention for adolescents. In the ego identity space. So I was being taught in a way where, like, I was being taught, okay, this is a theory by Erickson, and how you would change this theory and develop something for bringing an impact, and how you will measure that impact. So I think that knowledge has really helped me gaining, maybe I think really all these positions. That has been a very sound work, and it has helped me getting a deep dive into what it could be. And over a period of your life, career, and wherever you join work, I think everything teaches you one or the other good thing and new thing. I think I've learned a lot from all my past jobs and positions, and in Morningstar. Every day we are learning a new thing. Every day we are learning a new skill.
Okay. An interesting question from an anonymous attendee.
Okay.
Essentially, I think the person is trying to ask, how does behavioral science differ as it intersects with various fields, finance, economics, I guess healthcare, etc. What are the nuances that we see as in behavioral science across
Okay,
fields?
very good question. And I would, again, out of my own experience and my understanding, I'll give this answer. I really think behavioral science is just the way in the slides around skills, I said you should be clear about fundamentals. Okay, so for me, everything related to behavior part or human brain part, the fundamentals are coming from behavioral science. And whosoever I talk to, and whosoever like comes to me and say, I want to become a behavioral scientist, work in the space of behavioral science, blah, 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 I always recommend, whether it's finance or edtech or healthcare or whatever, I always recommend 2 books of behavioral science to them. What is like, one is Introduction to Psychology by Morgan and King, and Introduction to Psychology by Barron and Bryan. These are the 2 books which, like, I still have, like, in a very इतनी बारी पढ़ लिया है उसको कि वो अभी फटने की उस पे आ चुकी है, but still I could find them on the top shelf of my book rack. So these are the 2 go-to books which have provided the entire good amount of fundamental of this whole space of psychology. And for research as a subject, so books like one, I'm forgetting the name of that particular book. I'll tell you maybe later on. But another is Garrett, Introduction to Statistics and Research Designs by Garrett and by A.K. Singh. So these are a couple of books which I have referred for research. And when and to your question, sorry, I digressed a little bit. So I think everything is coming from the area of behavioral science. And you, for example, when we talk about behavioral finance, so it's application of behavioral science into the finance field. We have studied biases when we were doing psychology, just simple plain behavioral science. But now we are talking about biases and their implications for investors, biases and their implications for advisors. That is the way I look at it. So for me, it's more or less an application and connection between how you're merging the two fields, how you're merging the economics with behavioral science, or finance with behavioral science, or education with, for that matter, education with behavioral science. So that's the way I look at it. I don't know whether this is helpful or no, but I have worked with EdTech. I have worked with sports tech in one of the consulting assignments. I have worked on like mapping different sorts of like working in the area of projects with different sorts of like levels of research, which I've been talking about. Morningstar Financial Services and Data and Research Company, another company which in Bangalore, it was finance related company. So in all this was my experience. Whatever I have as a base, I'm just applying the same theories here.
Yeah, I think a similar question comes up with data science also. And what we tend to tell our students is, don't become just a data scientist. Try to choose your domain earlier in life, because there are so many intricacies related to a domain that if you want to be a data scientist, I would really prefer if you chose your domain early. And you said that I'm a data scientist in sports and allied activities.
Yeah,
I think
I am completely, I think, agar if somebody would have asked us, okay, 5 saal pehle somebody would have asked us ki I want to become, or like told us, okay, I want to become a data scientist. Maybe then I could have said, okay, that's fine, that's a nice field. But given whatever we are doing in Morningstar specifically, I have seen that data science is one small chunk in this whole picture. But to apply and work efficiently in your position of data sciences, you should know 5 other things. And if you don't have the knowledge of 5 other things, and research is very important space, because as I said, when I was presenting, without data analysis, without data science, there is no research. And without research, there is no data science also, I would say. You will not be able to work with data if you do not know what you are looking out for, what you're starting in, and what is your endpoint. I don't think that data science can live without any research question and any insight at the end.
So let me push in a trivia question of my own. See, one of the slides you showed was process of methodology development, and I got the discover part, ideate part, prototype test. There was a vote somewhere in between there. Vote. What is that?
Yes, I'll tell you. That's a very important part. Let me share that vote. Presentations, yes. So what happens in like I'll tell you what Morningstar. What happens in Morningstar, and I think in many companies where we are developing methodologies and then turning methodologies into products. So we have an intermediary who passes the methodology. So for us, it's like many times it happens that we are not preparing a final product, but rather we are prepping for the presentation which we need to have in the research council. So we have research councils, we have methodology councils who actually pass the entire product before it goes to the prototyping. So they pass the methodology before we land into prototyping. So that is the vote. So it's basically a board of members, the experts from different fields, internal people only, the experts from different fields and different areas, different org structures. They come and they listen to what your idea is, what your methodology is, why you have created, whether it would be required by the market or no. And then they take their stand on it, and then if it is passed by that particular group, then you take it to the next level of development in a form of a prototype, and then you take it to the launch part. So that is an import, that is a vote. Another aspect, when another angle of looking at vote is when you talk about user research or design research. So what designers are doing right now, so they develop a design, they think, okay, this is what is required, this is the problem you need to solve in a particular web page, in a particular website maybe, and they design something, they take it to the users select, vote for it, modify it, and then you take it further. So that vote is very, very important as an aspect. So it's very important to solve a problem, and from a problem solving perspective, we do it internally before going into research council. So we have a research idea, we know this is a gray area which we need to develop a tool around. We do a lot of brainstorming, come up with certain ideas. Okay, this can be done, this can be done, this can be done, and then we vote internally. Okay, this is something which makes more sense from a product perspective, and then we take that forward. And I think this is all coming from the theories of, I would say, divergent thinking or creatively solving a problem. So if you go back to psychology and you go back to the theories of problem solving, or you go back to the theories of creativity, or you go back to the theories of divergent thinking, this is the hierarchy you will find, that there are different steps in which you, okay, this is the stage of problem, this is a stage of coming up with the alternatives and ideas, and this is a stage of choosing a particular idea and taking it forward. It helps, Amlesh?
Absolutely. In the interest of time, we'll just restrict ourselves to two last questions.
Okay.
Now, Aditi Dahake is going to be in our classroom next year. Now, let's see what kind of initiative we're talking about. So, Aditi, I have allowed you to speak. So, go ahead, unmute and ask your question.
Thank you, sir. First of all, thank you so much, ma'am. It was such an insightful session.
Hi, Aditi. Thank you so much for appreciating.
So my question, so earlier when I asked the question about how interconnected behavioral science as a field is, I have a follow-up question on the same. So the question is basically, even though the field is very interconnected across fields, there must be some common root apart from psychology as a field, right? Because psychology again deals with a lot of, it has biology and a lot of about your thinking processes and stuff, but there might be something else apart from just human psychology which behavioral science as a field also has. Like if it is 60% psychology, there might be something about 40% left for behavioral science, right?
Okay, so I think there are a couple of things which you are asking in one go. Let me dissect as per like whatever I have understood. One, before like jumping into answering the question, is when I feel when you say psychology and when you say behavioral science, in your head, are you taking these two things as a different things? If I'm understanding it correctly?
I am guessing it's a psychology is a huge part of behavioral science. I think that's what is in my head.
Okay, great. So thanks for telling me that. So in my head, I'll tell you what is there in my head. In my head, I'm a doctorate in psychology. I studied psychology as a subject, but it talks about what is psychology. Psychology is the study of human behavior. It's behavioral science only. So when I'm saying psychology, I'm referring to the field of behavioral science in general. So do not take these two as two separate things in your head. This is one thing only. Okay, this helps.
Yes, it clears out a lot of things.
Okay, now come, if you have any other, like I really forgot the actual question. So can you repeat that question?
Right. So the actual question was basically, is there any other field which is also a huge part of behavioral sciences, or is it like, so I was a marketing student in my second year of bachelor's. So when we go ahead with marketing, there is obviously psychology involved, and or let's just say there's a lot of behavioral science involved in that. But when we go ahead with marketing analytics as a field, so we do focus on psychology, like as a behavioral science and marketing, right? So is it like as per the field, it's like psychology plus whatever the field is, or is it something more than psychology?
I think it's when we are talking about behavioral science. So whether you have a degree in behavioral science or no, you cannot remove the behavioral part of it, because you're working with human beings, you're working with human behavior. You're trying to assess and analyze human behavior through maybe data, through maybe you're targeting, you're creating personas from a marketing perspective or consumer science perspective. So you cannot take that piece out. As I said, it's always what you have read through books, through your study, your education in the space of behavioral science. You're applying that in behavioral finance, or like not say behavioral finance, maybe in marketing, maybe in finance. So, for example, I don't know what you have been like what exact role you have been doing when you were doing marketing. Your marketing, pursuing your marketing job or career, whatever. So, I think the fundamentals of behavioral science can be applied. So, for an example, the behavioral marketing team, which we have in Morningstar, what they do is they internally support the behavioral market, they internally support the Morningstar marketing team, and there they try understanding what my investor is looking at, what they want, what they don't want. They grab the internal data from the marketing editorial team, they create models on that, they create personas for the people. They understand, okay, who is coming to my website, who is understanding and going and channelizing what they want, what they don't want. So all that aspect. And another good example of behavioral marketing is which many company do. Okay, this is the email, for example, and this is the write-up which has been used, maybe designed by a content designer or a graphic designer. But how you can modify and place a couple of things as per your behavioral science, what would people would want to know and look for, is something you put nicely, and then you try and test that the RCTs which they run to see whether what is working, the behavioral, the one which is like behaviorally modified is working, or the one which is like which was initial. So you do a lot of like RCTs. So such sort of like experiments these teams they run. Again, it gives a mix of it has a mix of behavioral science, marketing, data analysis, research designs, which are like very generic, which are general, which you would have learned when you maybe have been doing any sort of research in any subject, not in the behavioral science also. So all the basics of the research also stand true over there. So this is a way you're applying your skills of behavioral science, data science, and research into the marketing space. Does it help, Aditi? Aditi, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, it does help, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Sagneet, one last question, and then we'll let you go back to figuring out what's in people's minds. See, I am seeing a very delightful trend. Students who come to MDAE are actually proficient in a foreign language. Yeah, French, German, Spanish seem to be popular, but we actually have a student in this year's cohort who's proficient in Danish. And students from Pune, there's always been a propensity to learn Japanese.
Great.
Now, that's a huge skill. Polyglottism is a huge skill. Is it a natural ally with behavioral research? Does that, polyglottism or multiple languages coupled with behavioral research?
I have never thought about this, but as you were just mentioning, like it comes to my mind. That's, I think, actually great. So, for example, I am working in the area of policy research. So recently, I've been talking to one of the members who are working in leads who are working in the Save the Children organization. So it's an NGO, and they have recently opened a behavioral unit in India that is called as Cubic. And I was talking to his head, his name is Indrajit. So he was telling me how they have to like talk to and connect with multiple people in the country. They go to Uganda, they go to this and that and do research. So I really think, and I think when they're working in the NGO space or policy research or working with the cultural where your cultural aspects would have come in. So it's a, I think it's a plus point if you're going for a research somewhere and you know the native language of that particular place. You can talk, you can connect, you can create that bond with the people, and then in the kind of, again, it comes to your communication skills and storytelling, and आप उनसे अच्छे से बात कर सकते हो, उनकी language में बात कर सकते हो, उनसे connect कर सकते हो. So as a foreigner, if I'm going and talking in Hindi or English and they are speaking another language, that connect mentally will take time to like उसको मुझे construct करने में बहुत time लगेगा. As in, like, I know that language, I go and talk to them in their specific language, that connect will be just like in clicks. So I really think from a qualitative research or from a research perspective, it's not I'm talking specifically in the area of behavioral science, but I think it would become very easy to tap somebody's behavior and do research when you know the native language. And that is why for a researcher, when you're doing any sort of research and you're doing on ground field research, it's very important for you to, like, you should go prepared. You should know what the culture is, how the people are, what they wear, what they do, what they not do, how they greet people. So you should know, you should be prepared at your hand. And like in that whole piece of preparation, if you know their native language, I think that's marvelous.
Okay. Sagneet, it's been a long time. We are 30 minutes over budget. It
Yes.
was an absolute delight to have you here.
Same here.
And
Same here.
I wish all of our faculty were also here, because really, we need our faculty of various courses to all start now aligning towards, I mean, we've already done it with machine learning, but it's, I think, very important for each course delivery to think about how it can possibly dock into behavioral sciences.
Correct.
And this is something that I'm going to be working on with Dr. Anirudh, and hopefully we'll reach out to you at various points of time. And I'm sure you'll continue to support us.
I'm ready to help. I'm ready to support. I'm ready to help. That's out of curiosity I would do. Thank you so much, Amlesh. And I don't know, I couldn't see Methli over here or Anirudh over here on the screen. But thank you so much for calling me for the for the session and giving me a chance to interact. Because see, I have whatever I have learned, and whatever as I mentioned when I was presenting, there was a limited scope told to me as a person, as a, like, when I was like looking for out for jobs and all that, and like upgrading my career path. So, and that's and nothing to my teachers. I have been like worked with fantastic teachers and fantastic institute, but I think that was a common problem across. So I think it's on me, and some amount of responsibility I also have towards the aspirants who are working in the space of behavioral science, who want to study, want to make their career in the space of behavioral science. And if some amount of knowledge which I have, which I can like share with other people, with other students, if that can benefit and upgrade their career, I think that is one noble cause I want to work towards. So thank you so much for giving this opportunity to me and calling me here for this session.
The pleasure and
so
honor is entirely ours, and I look forward to the next occasion, which I hope will be in the near future.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
Sagneet.
Take care. All the
We are signing
very,
off.
very best
Bye.
for your future.
Bye.